Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and the anti-Russian rhetoric is really heating up, my friends, to a point we haven't seen in recent history, except for, well, I mean, we haven't even seen this during the Soviet Union, and most college professors will tell you that the Soviet Union was innocent, but then will shame what's happening right now in Ukraine, blind-eyed to what the U.S. has been doing for years. And this isn't a game of whatabouts. It's about the fact that with common sense, we can break apart an issue and separate individuals from governments, regardless of how we feel this whole thing's going down, whether you're on the side of Russia or whether you're on the side of Ukraine or whether you're just against governments killing people in other countries and then governments reacting by killing people in other countries. People are the pawns to be sacrificed for the king and the queen, and the governments run wild and individuals are blamed. As this video shows, in Germany, a Russian store was attacked. The glass was broken and the shop windows were doused with paint. How can they blame innocent shopkeepers for what is happening in Ukraine? It is absolutely disgusting what we are currently witnessing around the world with this anti-Russian rhetoric. How could we once again, another time in history, go against people from a certain landmass because of what they think that government is doing? Whether they are right or wrong is besides the point. You cannot go after people because they are Russian. And we are going to go into countless examples of this today as we see some of the most absurd attacks on just Russians in general being banned from NHL and CHL and other sports teams, the Olympics, the Paralympics. There's so much to go into here today in this video. And if you bear with us, we are going to go through as many insane examples of this as possible. In fact, it's even trending on Twitter, Russian bank. Yeah, they're shutting down Russian bank accounts. Absolutely insane. Good reason to get into privacy coins, by the way. But anyway, before we get into any of that, make sure to check out the links below, GOGETFUNDING.com, Patreon, Subscribestar. We have a PayPal address, we have a Bitcoin address, and we have a Cointree link with multiple different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please. You could also check out, of course, whamsurvival.com for long-term storable foods. It's never been more important, especially in the face of all this insanity and the controlled collapse of the supply chain, to get long-term storable foods. Waiting is not a very smart thing to do at this point. There could be a time coming very soon where the post office won't be delivering any of this stuff. Better to be overly prepared than underprepared. Also check out rncstore.com, Richardson Nutritional Center, your source for Laetrile online, made famous by G. Edward Griffin's book, World Without Cancer. Make sure to get your apricot seeds, Laetrile, vitamin B17, amygdalin there. And of course, come on out, my friends, to Flote Fest 2022. A lot of amazing speakers there. Eddie Bravo, Sam Tripoli. We got unbelievable names that we're expecting to come out there, yet to be announced. And the tickets are cheap. It's coming up in Gause, Texas, April 29th to May 3rd, 2022. And by the way, if you can't tell, I'm in Texas right now, on my way to an adventure overseas to report on crazy news over there, including possibly Ukraine. But anyway, come to Flote Fest 2022 and get your tickets with code WHAM, W-A-M. It's all linked in the description below. We hope to see you there. Anyway, let's get into this. With the rhetoric that's happening right now, absolutely insane rhetoric, dangerous rhetoric against just a group of people from a landmass that happens to be the biggest landmass in the world. We have to teach ourselves the lesson once again as to why groupthink and why team sports are so dangerous in this realm of politics, which in itself is dangerous. We can remember the rhetoric of Germaphobia in World War I, where in the streets of Britain, people rushed German-owned stores, burned them to the ground, beat the shop owners. Absolutely horrible stuff that people did to the Germans in World War I. You could see in this photo an angry mob attacking a German-owned business in East London, 1916. And this was all too common. It's actually what led the royal family to change their last name from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, which came from Victorian times, their last name, which was German, to Windsor, because Windsor seemed like it was more, well, it didn't sound like it came from really any country. It seemed simple. It seemed British, really. And so we've seen this happen before, and we know what it led to, and we know the animosity it created and the victimhood, and we know that it led to war, further wars, years in the future. We have to be careful about this rhetoric, my friends. This is an interesting post from Alessandra or Alessa Bocci on Twitter. It says Italy's main university in Milan just banned teaching Fyodor Dostoevsky because he's a Russian writer. If you know who he is, this will be ironic. Dostoevsky was sent to a Siberian labor camp for reading banned books in Tsarist Russia. We are reaching levels of hatred and stupidity that I thought were never possible. Unfortunately, I haven't been so hopeful about that. I've expected this for a long time. We have posts like this. International Cat Federation bans Russian cats from competition. No, this isn't the Babylon Bee. No, this isn't the Onion. This is the Washington Post. This is a rhetoric that is being pumped into the public. When I talk to people, I saw one guy offer his home to Ukrainian refugees and Russian refugees. And people attacked him for daring to offer a home to Russians. Why? Did you blame all Americans when Bush and Obama and Trump as well, and now into Biden, were mass murdering men, women, and children overseas? They're continuing to do so. Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. What about Libya? No, of course not. Almost everyone in Libya loved Gaddafi, by the way. And I was living in Egypt at one point, and there's so many Libyan refugees in Egypt that were so disgusted by what Obama and Hillary Clinton did. But they don't hate me. They don't hate Americans. They welcome them with open arms in Egypt. In many ways, they depend on them for tourism. We have this, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Troikos, CHL's proposed ban of Russian players could have ripple effect on the NHL. They're talking about getting rid of Russian players in the NHL. Hockey equipment giant CCM to stop marketing Ovechkin, other Russian NHLers. Why? Because they're Russian? Why? This is discrimination. And weirdly, the left, which loves to call everything discrimination, even when it isn't, which most of the time it isn't, is silent on this and, in fact, promoting it. They're showing their true colors, again, like Jim Crow era. It's history repeating itself, my friends. Let me just load this page. Russian, Belarusian athletes banned from Winter Paralympic Games as IPC reverses ruling. Now, that's sick. That's absolutely sick. These people who are paraplegic, who have one thing in their life they are devoted to and that they can do easily is succeed at sports in Paralympic Games. They're now discriminating against them and kicking them out because this masked moron says so. People in Belarus, which, by the way, is a pretty sleepy country, don't have a ton of stuff to get excited about. Then they go to the Paralympic Games and they're told they can't play. This is just disgusting. It's disgusting. And I'm sick of people pushing this kind of rhetoric and this kind of garbage. I am so against political correctness. I am so against all that kind of nonsense. But in this case, we're seeing it on full scale and people are looking the other way. We can't allow this rhetoric to continue because people get killed because of this stuff. People commit suicide. People are pushed out of society. People are made second-class citizens. The government is organized crime. That is the entity you should be mad about, not individuals from Russia or with Russian last names. Russia banned from international gymnastics and curling events over invasion of UK. Why? Why? Were the gymnasts invading Ukraine? Because I'm pretty sure a bunch of young girls in tutus weren't going over to Ukraine and bombing kindergartners. I'm pretty sure if that even happened at all, because there's a lot of questions about that. That's why I'm trying to go to Ukraine and see for myself. I'm pretty sure that was the government that did that. Whether it's Ukraine bombing themselves or Russia bombing Ukraine, I don't know exactly what's happening. I'd like to see on the ground, because I'm talking to some Ukrainians that say it's hell on earth. And I'm talking to other Ukrainians personally that say literally nothing's happening. It's so confusing. And that's why the best thing to do is to see for ourselves. Here in Austin, Texas, where I am right now, there was recently a place called, I think, Russian House. It's like a bar restaurant, and they changed their name to just House or The House. It's absurdity. That's cancel culture on full scale. BBC pulls all reporters from Russia after Moscow criminalizes disinformation. So we're seeing a lot more stories like this. Meanwhile, the Ukraine also banned, I think, 4 television stations who were against Zelensky. So it seems like we have a problem with government censorship on all sides of the matter. Again, not whataboutisms, because what Russia is doing is also really stupid. As far as we have a state controlling people, that's a problem. And Putin's been calling for a new world order and a green new world order for years, while also saying out of the other side of his mouth, we need sovereignty. It's very interesting, something we need to look into. But Zelensky is a puppet, and the U.S. overthrew the Ukraine government in 2014 and propped up a puppet leader. The U.S. and Israel are heavily involved. And then Russia's working with China, which was also propped up by the U.S. in order to spread communism in Asia. Just like Russia was propped up by the U.S. under the Soviet Union in order to get rid of Hitler, who was basically, alongside Italy, the only entities that were actually showing any sign of overthrowing communism in Europe. That isn't a support, obviously, but it's history, and I'm not going to ignore that history happened. I don't like revisionist history, which is what the government pushes forward. Meanwhile, we have Russian official responds to U.S. senator's call to assassinate Putin. So I believe it was Lindsey Graham, everyone's favorite neocon warhawk, who called for Russians to kill Putin. Ridiculous rhetoric coming from people that supported locking down civilization for 2 years and enslaving people. And trust me, there's more to come, way more to come. But all of this led me to write this post on Twitter at World Alt Media. Imagine being so brainwashed that some TV man that lied to you about CV, coronavirus, for 2 years can convince you to randomly turn bigoted towards Russians. Regardless of what side you're on, or if you're like me and support humans over organized crime rackets like government, you should never point your fingers and discriminate blindly against a group of people who live in a random landmass. Russians or Ukrainians, Iraqis or Americans. Banning Russians from sports teams, banning Russian brands, Russian cats from cat contests, Russian bank accounts, etc. All of this is disgusting, and history will not be kind to those who support it. One person did mention to me on Facebook, and I agree with him, I think you're giving too much hope towards this idea of the people writing history being the good guys. He's probably right. If we look at World War II, I don't think it was the good guys that wrote the history there, or World War I for that matter. All based in false flags and power shifts and proxy wars. It's all meant to divide people against each other and get us to kill each other for the sake of the government, for more control that is never relinquished as long as we live, from World War I and World War II to the Patriot Act after 9/11, a false flag attack, obviously. Gun control laws that have come in after recent false flag attacks. And then people attack each other and kill each other over an issue, over politics. This is why government is organized crime. They are a racket. They only gain power from gaining more power. They only grow if they control you more. The more they control you, the better they are. The less they control you, the closer they are to collapsing. And that is a modus operandi of these psychopaths, these pedophile, satanic psychopaths in power. So what I'm seeing today is that divisive push that they did between the vaccinated and unvaccinated. Now, with that said, a lot of the people who are on the right side saying, hey, banning people from restaurants for not having a vaccine is wrong, will now go rah, rah, rah for war because the military said so, the government said so, and you can't say no to the military, can you? A bunch of henchmen going overseas and murdering people, mercenaries for the state. Misled, obviously, most of them. I feel bad for most of them. But if it were me versus them, I'd feel worse for me. This is the direction they're going in. Divide people more, cut us into so many fragments that we can't organize and we fall apart. And this is why we as individuals have to fight back against this rhetoric. If YouTube existed in the form that it did in 2011, 2012, if YouTube existed in 2001, 2002, the Iraq War likely wouldn't have ever happened because of the dialogue, the information war. Because of the information war, our side won the fight against this idea of war in Syria. Remember, they wanted us to go to war with Syria, where Assad was told by by Tillerson, that the U.S. government was told, yeah, don't worry, we're not going after Assad anymore. We want to work together with him. And then 3 days later, we're supposed to believe that Assad gassed his own people. Just shot himself in the foot for no reason with no gain. And then 1 year to the day later, the U.S. says we're no longer going after Assad. And then 3 days later, again, he gassed his own people. None of that happened, obviously, but that's what the West claimed. And it's later been proven through the Syria papers and the Afghanistan papers that all of those things were being lied about in order to manipulate people into war. Leaks have come out to show that all the things we said at that time came true. Because why would a government just eagerly want people to invade them unless they on purpose want to collapse their civilization to create a new one? The Great Reset, my friends. And I believe what we're witnessing with Russia and Ukraine is just that push into the economic reset, shutting down bank accounts across the board, just like they did in Canada recently. And they say, look at Putin, he's beating his protesters. Well, Canada just did that like 2 weeks ago. And everyone already forgot. This is the hypocrisy and absurdity of the world we live in. It is quite literally idiocracy, though idiocracy had a bit more empathy to it. And it's just going in circles, and it likely won't end anytime soon. We're heading into the Great Reset, depopulation event. Vaccine passes are coming again. They just got federally in the U.S. They just got this smart card pass with a QR code for your vaccine for your vaccine pass. Basically, it is a digital health certificate, and red states are bringing it in just as much as blue states. And eventually, while we're looking the other way towards war, destruction, and death, and hate towards a people that were born in a landmass, while that happened, by the way, some of the most independent, tough people in the world are in Russia and Ukraine, for that matter. As this happens, they secretly pass all these new vaccine passes for the next HIV outbreak and whatever comes next. Carbon credit, social credit, technocracy, supply chain destruction, which is continuing to happen and will get worse. So many other examples, my friends. The inflation, the push to the special drawing rights at the IMF, which will be connected to your social credit pass. Worldwide. Travel passes. It's going to be hell on earth if we don't fight. But like I said from the beginning, I don't think this is going to end until past 2030 or somewhere around 2030. You know, the United Nations year for depopulation, Agenda 2030. That's where we're going. So that is why we must fight. Anyways, I appreciate everyone watching today. We will continue to report on this insane discrimination. I refuse to discriminate against a Ukrainian person or a Russian person. It's absurd that I even have to say that. It's absurd. It's totally anti-human because this is an anti-human agenda. The real war is on humanity, my friends. The real war is on humanity. So I appreciate everyone watching today. We'll get back at you with much more on all of this as we travel around. We'll do our best. We need to go and report on the ground in places like Europe and maybe in Ukraine if they let us in. Wish us the best. And we want to get all the information we could get for you from there, because it's better to be on the ground and see it for ourselves than just trust other factions and mainstream media, etc. I mean, as I've said before, when I was in Milan last year, 50,000 people protesting in the streets, I was the only media. I was the only media in Netherlands with 250,000 people protesting in the streets. I was the only media in Paris with 10,000 people. The only person reporting at these things, because revisionist history happens fast. And if it could happen in one day, imagine what could happen in 80 years. Anyways, I hope everyone checks the links below and helps support us in our trips around Europe and elsewhere to report on this insanity. We might be in Asia a bit. Check the links below. GoGetFunding.com, Patreon, Subscribestar. We have a PayPal address, we have a Bitcoin address, and we have a Cointree link with multiple different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please. Of course, you can go and check the links for the upcoming Flote Fest, Flote Fest 2022. It's going to be a really cool event, and there's going to be people like Sam Tripoli and Eddie Bravo, and we're hearing possibly Andrew Kaufman, Dr. Andrew Kaufman. There's Spike Cohen. Many people are going to be there, many more that haven't been named yet. But it's in Gause, Texas, outside of Austin, and it's on April 29th, I believe, to May 3rd. And I'm looking forward to this event greatly, and I'll be there for sure, and I hope to see you there. For those of you that didn't want to go to Anarchapulco in Mexico, you have a chance for a much cheaper and family-friendly event in Gause, Texas, where there's camping involved, but there's also hotels nearby. You could camp on the grounds. It's a huge land mass where you could camp and have fun with people every night and throughout the day. And there's people serving food and all sorts of stuff. Or you could go to a nearby cabin. So our code is WAM, W-A-M, and you can click on the affiliate link in the description of this video. Of course, you could go to our Teespring store. You could, join our newsletter, www.iamband.com. And of course, we have our amazing affiliates like rncstore.com, Richardson, Nutritional Center for Laetrile, amygdalin, vitamin B17, and apricot seeds. We have whamsurvival.com for long-term storable foods, of course, very important. And of course, we're on Telegram, World Alternative Media, as well as our Telegram channel, World Alternative Media Announcements. And you can find us on BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. You can find us on dollarvigilante.tv. And of course, we're on Hive, Steemit, and Flote.app at Josh Sigurdson. We're also on the bad guys, Instagram and TikTok, World Alternative Media, as well as Twitter at World Alt Media and Getter at World Alt Media. Check those links below, my friends, and I'll see you guys soon. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.